right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. This is the wording of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and it serves as one of the most important developments in the 20th century. Not only did the 19th Amendment provide rights for women to vote, but it also signaled that they were no longer second-rate citizens compared to men. Tuesday we will go to the polls and cast our vote for who we believe best suited to be the next President of the United States. How would you feel if you didn't get a vote in such an important election? Until August 18, 1920, the women of the United States felt as if they had no say in their country's course. And according to the United States Census Bureau, the population of the United States is 50.8% female. This slight majority may very well determine the outcome of tomorrow's election. There are three very important figures in the passage of the 19th Amendment. They are Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony. I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about them. Lucretia Mott was born in Nantucket, Massachusetts in 1793. She was born to a Quaker family, and this would greatly influence her views on women's rights, slavery, and education. From the age of 13, Lucretia attended a Quaker boarding school called 9 Points, where she would later teach upon graduating. It was during this time as a teacher that Lucretia met a fellow by the name of James Mott, and the two would eventually marry in 1811. It was also during this time that Lucretia experienced firsthand inequality of women in the workplace. Lucretia was paid 1/3 the pay of her male counterparts. In June of 1840, she attended the World Anti-Slavery Convention in London. During that convention, she would meet Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and the two would become irate that no women were permitted to speak at the convention. This would prove critical in the rights of women back home, for when they both got back, they started having conventions on women's rights. Later, they would, along with Susan B. Anthony, they would found the National Women's Suffrage Association in 1869. Lucretia Mott was one of America's first feminists and reformers. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was born 22 years after Lucretia Mott. Her father, Daniel Cady, was a congressman, and she acquired a vast knowledge of law from him. In 1840, Elizabeth Cady married Henry Stanton, a prominent abolitionist and skilled orator. Shortly after their wedding, they attended the 1980 World's Anti-Slavery Convention in London, where Elizabeth would meet Lucretia Mott. In 1851, Elizabeth met Susan B. Anthony, and the two began to work in tandem to advance their cause. While Susan B. Anthony acted as the politician and organizer, Elizabeth Cady Stanton wrote many of the arguments that she would use while out on the road. Nowadays it is rare to hear Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton mentioned independently of one another. Susan B. Anthony was born in Massachusetts in 1820. Susan B. Anthony would come to define the women's rights movement. Susan, much like Lucretia Mott, spent her early life as a teacher and was also born into a Quaker family. This played a key role in igniting the call for women's rights in her. When she met Elizabeth Cady Stanton in 1851, she found a complimentary advocate for women's rights. Elizabeth had children and a husband, and was unable to live a life on the road, speaking and politicizing her cause. But Susan B. Anthony was free of those responsibilities and essentially stayed on the road for nearly 4 decades. Although voting rights for women would not happen until 14 years after she died in 1906, the 19th Amendment is often referred to as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. Due to the relationships and chance encounters between the three of them, Lucretia Mott, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Susan B. Anthony became some of the key figures behind the 19th Amendment. I hope everyone will join me at the polls tomorrow and cast your vote for who will best serve our fine nation. Because after all, voting is American freedom most cherished. It makes us feel as if we have changed the course of our nation. In the words of Senator Barbara Boxer, every citizen of this country should be guaranteed that their vote matters, that their vote is counted, and that in the voting booth, their vote has as much weight as that of any CEO any member of Congress, or any president.